Hey everyone out there, how's it going? Welcome to Screen Speak. It is the podcast that is all about movies, life, and so much more. I'm Jordan Anderson. This is my podcast, and I really sincerely thank you for taking the time to give it a listen. Go ahead and follow or download episodes of Screen Speak on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. You can also check out the YouTube channel that's just simply titled Screen Speak. I'll post some audio bites there. Eventual videos will be posted there as well, and maybe some stuff in between. And then there is also the Instagram page that you can follow, just called @ScreenSpeakPodcast. I'll post some behind the scenes from episodes, give you some hints for what's coming up, as well as some other movie related things from time to time. So do one or all of those things. Any of it helps. I really appreciate it. Excuse me. So with me today is actually my big brother. Jared Anderson is with me here in the studio. I think it's funny saying that, but in studio, Jared Anderson's here.
Hello, everyone.
Jared, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
No, this is not my kind of thing normally.
What is your kind of thing normally?
Something that involves a keyboard and typing, so that my voice isn't heard.
Like what do you like to type?
Messages.
It's okay. I'm really happy to have you on here because I know that you do like movies, maybe not as much as myself, but there are certain movies like the one we're going to talk about today that I think you have some interesting perspectives and input that you can share on it. Your face is like, oh, no, don't put that kind of pressure on me.
Well, I just want to get a disclaimer out of the way of I am very much a fanboy with this movie. And with all movies in general, I don't tend to nitpick much. So if the direction of the movie is telling me, hey, this is where we're going, I am along for the ride, and that's that.
I will say that Jared, just like he said, I tease him in like the best way possible because he is like the most ideal audience member you could ask for. And I mean that with sincerity because, like he said, he's not necessarily like critical, but at the same time, it's pretty hard I feel like it'd be pretty hard for him to watch a movie and just be like, oh, this thing was just a real big train wreck to get through. I mean, even bad movies you can find enjoyment out of.
Paranormal Activity would be the closest.
The first one, or
yes, I laughed my ass off through most of that.
We watched that together.
Did we?
Yeah, because we were over.
Were we at Leah's?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were over at her parents' house, and I remember we were in the living room because her dad was there, and wasn't he like actually like really into it?
Yeah, he's always been a big fan of
Ghosts.
Paranormal stuff, so it was up his alley. But anyway,
it's funny.
It was.
There are some because if memory serves on this now, and granted this is a bit of a distraction from what we're talking about, but if memory serves. I remember the first time I watched that, and like the boyfriend in it, wasn't he kind of like the voice of reason, or one of them was like the more reasonable one.
Like, yeah, it's a bit more grounded.
But yeah, it is just, yeah, I don't know. My policy with that, if there is a ghost in the place, just leave.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a Conjuring thing where like the demon follows you around, and like, you know what I mean? Because that's like, I don't know if that works.
Unless if you have John Constantine's number, then that'll be cool.
I feel like I bet there's real life Constantines because exorcisms they still practice it in the Catholic Church. I think
that's another episode for you.
It most definitely is. I should talk. I'm trying to think actually what would be a good demon movie to talk about.
You could actually probably do a theme with it.
Yeah, like how so?
Ninth Gate, Constantine, just kind of ones that touch
like
on that.
In October.
Yeah.
spooky month.
Yeah.
Something like that. That's not a bad idea.
So more explore the theme and how it's been projected.
I like it. I like it. See? Good ideas. Okay, so the movie that we are going to talk about today is Aliens, directed by James Cameron, came out in July of 1986, which is pretty crazy when I think about that. I mean, it's before either of us was born.
Yep.
But anyhow, I'm going to go through the synopsis real quick for the movie. I'm sure most people have likely seen this movie, but, in the off chance that there are some that haven't, hopefully this helps. So, after floating in space for 57 years, Lieutenant Ripley, who's played by Sigourney Weaver, her shuttle is found by a deep space salvage team, which... Very quick sidetrack here, but when I think of deep space salvage teams, I always think of that one badass cutscene from the first StarCraft game where the salvage team goes on there and like they find like the Zerg kills them all, and there's the pistol that sounds like a like a shotgun.
Yeah, that is cool. But also, real quick comment on that scene: it is amazing that they were honest salvagers, because I've always thought how easy would it have been for them to just, nope, we didn't find anyone, and just shoot Ripley out into space.
That's true.
It was,
yeah.
So the fact that you have honest salvage man in that time, that there's hope for humanity.
I like that. I like that. So back to the synopsis. But upon arriving at LV-426, the Marines find only one survivor, a 9-year-old girl named Newt, played by Carrie Henn, who actually I believe, because they did a recent anniversary panel actually while Bill Paxton was alive, rest in peace. She's a teacher now, an elementary school teacher, I think. She just didn't do acting. Like that was like her one thing. Kind of cool.
It is kind of cool, especially since just last night I learned that the kid that plays Charlie in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, that's his only thing, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
That kid?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, I can't even recall his name.
More, but yeah, so apparently that was the only film he did.
That is interesting. I'm gonna have to definitely do a Google search on that. Anyways, back to the synopsis again. But even the battle-hardened Marines, with all their latest weaponry and whatnot, they're basically no match for all the aliens that have invaded the colony. And in a sense, it's sort of I don't want to say like a classic horror movie, but like, you know, they get picked off, so to speak, and like you wonder who's gonna outlive them and last towards the end. But that's a general synopsis for the movie. It's an action movie, I think, at its core, with, of course, a lot of elements of horror and suspense and even some other things in there. But the thing I want to ask you in particular, Jared, is because this is a movie that over time, it's a very well-loved movie. I mean, I would definitely say that this movie is a classic. It's been critically praised. I actually forget that Sigourney Weaver was nominated for an Oscar for it. Yeah, she was up for an Oscar, and I think the movie was up for a few different Oscars, like 5 or 6, mostly for like visual effects works and things like that. But I always get encouraged when I see a movie that actually has wide audience appeal, has critical acclaim, and also gets recognized by the Academy for any merits that it has, because I just that combination of things doesn't happen often.
No, that's a very hard standard to get to. A lot of work goes into that.
The last time I can recall any situation like that ever happened, I think, was with Mad Max Fury Road, because that was up for a lot of different Oscars. Audiences liked it, critics liked it, and that just doesn't happen that much.
Lord of the Rings. Just wanted to add that one.
Now, Lord of the Rings is absolutely a given. Critics love it, audiences love it, and I love it.
Halflings especially.
The Hobbits?
Yeah.
Why do they call them halflings? I mean, obviously, like, they're half of a person.
Right there.
That's just it?
Probably.
I don't know if there's, like, a deeper thing to that. Maybe not. But I like that. I have to ask, if you're ever around a kid, would you call him a halfling?
Oh, yeah. That would be probably the tamest thing I would call a child.
What else do you call kids, Jared?
Assholes.
I take it you're not a big fan of children.
Nope, they are not for me.
That is perfectly okay. I love the honesty. But back to Aliens, why do you think people love this movie so much?
I think because, well, first, Ridley Scott, he did Alien, and he set the universe up so well. I haven't seen it the most, but, then they made the sequel, and James Cameron helped it achieve what you said about Academy praise and, the general population. But I think it's because there's a little bit of everything while still evolving the franchise. It wasn't just, a poor direction or quick cop out for cash. It was done as a sequel properly. And I think that really helps people, because if it's organic like that and you have the right actors, the right director, that people pick up on that whether they think they do or not.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things, like, just as a sequel that you said that work about this movie. Namely, namely James Cameron. I know before I hit record on this, we were talking about how you had recently watched the first Terminator.
Yep.
And we were talking, about, of course, about T2, Judgment Day, which is arguably the best of the Terminators. It's the one that people cite the most. I'll be back, and Bad to the Bone, all the iconic moments. John Connor's whiny little bitchy voice. You can't kill him.
Yeah. Fairly annoying kid. Newt would put him out to pasture.
What my thing? I got to talk about this with John Connor quick. One of my favorite things that he says in that is like where like the stepdad comes out, is just like, "Come on, get in the house there, John. Do the chores." And she's like, "She's not my mother, Todd."
Yeah. Yeah. See, I don't know on that.
I don't know
the kid was a dick.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, I mean, I like his rebellious nature, but it's like, think of the parents. They probably like, oh my god, this kid's trouble. But anywho, just as a sequel, I think it's very interesting what we had talked about, off the recording here, was that James Cameron in Terminator 2, he in a way did what he did with Aliens, is that he took a concept, he took characters, he took a world, and then he evolved it while still maintaining the core of what made those movies work, but he also changed it. And that's such a tricky balance, I think, to strike, especially I think in a science fiction world too, because I don't know, the visual elements of that are very, very important. And like if you were to change too much, it would lose what made it work in the first place. And so I think he did an amazing job of doing that, and that's one of the reasons I think the movie holds up so well.
Oh yeah.
And then I guess just you yourself, I mean, aside from why we think the movie holds up, but I mean, what do you love about this movie? I know you love this movie. You've seen it a lot more times, I think, than I have.
Probably. Really, the atmosphere and the action, despite it almost being minimal in hindsight, there's really not much considering how long the movie is. But that and the actors are just... I don't think you could have subbed one of those people out and still gotten the same film, no matter their role.
Now, speaking of characters, this is most definitely an ensemble movie. Alien was, in a sense, an ensemble movie, but then it does eventually focus pretty much primarily on Ripley. Whereas this movie, similar thing, people start eventually getting like picked off and killed by the aliens, so, she is still the central character, but she's around a lot more people in this movie. And so the casting of this, I'm not sure who the casting director was, but they did a freaking remarkable job at getting a bunch of people that a lot of them have actually gone on to do a lot of different things in movies. I'm not going to say a lot of them are like super standout famous, but I don't know, like this, just they all worked, like you said. I mean, every single one of them, even like a part that somebody would maybe, see as being minor, it didn't feel minor. Like everybody felt like they had equal worth in it. And also I think that the movie's always smart too, when they give you that bit of time before the shit hits the fan for you to kind of get the sense of like the bond and the dynamic. Because if you just shove them right into the setting and then you just kill them all, you're not going to care.
Right, without making each one their own personal tale and story arc, but they did show you that these aren't just nameless Marines. These are people. They each had a voice in this movie. And since so many of them were different, it was great to see that mesh, but it also played into the plot later on.
Exactly. Now, there's a lot of different characters. The ones I had noted that I can remember, Ripley, of course. You got Hicks, played by Michael Biehn. Bishop, Lance Henriksen. Newt, played by Carrie, I can't remember her last name. Burke, I think that's Paul Reiser, right? He's like the dick corporate.
I'm horrible with
he's the guy. Yes, he's the guy that tries to betray him, and he's just like, "Don't worry, the company's got the good interests in mind."
Yep.
Vasquez, and then probably I'm gonna guess he's your favorite character. It's Hudson. Is Hudson your guy?
He is, but for multiple reasons, and the one being, I know I said earlier that you couldn't have switched one role out and gotten the same movie, but I don't know if this film would have done as good as it did without him. He brought just this aura almost to the movie, to the people around him. I don't know. He reacted also better, I think, more realistically than some people. That movie magic kind of disappeared, and you get to see him realize the situation they're in.
Yeah, I thought because it's Bill Paxton who plays Hudson, and I mean the guy has he has a lot of range actually as an actor. I mean, he's done dramatic stuff, he's done funny stuff, and I would actually argue that in a way he's kind of comedic at times, but like darkly comedic, because he's like oh fuck man, oh shit, you know.
Yeah, but even then, it's not like he's trying to act. I think that's it. He doesn't try to be funny. He is just himself. His dark humor is just a human reaction to the situation they find themselves in, and that's actually a very good point. He's not cracking jokes.
No, and in fact, like if I remember just from my memory of the movie, when they're introducing the Marines and like they're first waking up and they're going through their drills, and I remember he's a big shit talker. He's got a lot of confidence, or at least seemingly he does. He's just like, all right, man, like we're gonna come in and kick ass, and he does all that stuff, and so then you can kind of tell that like because he's almost one of the most like boisterous, like larger personalities there, that once the shit starts hitting the fan, I think he's like one of the first ones that panics and is just like, oh shit, like like we're all gonna die, game over, man.
Yeah, and I think actually now that you say that, part of that is that he's almost like this behind the scenes glue for the team, for the Marines. It's however he's reacting, that's how well the squad is actually doing. He's almost like the embodiment of the situation.
Yeah, in a way he's
and I think the people ride off of that.
I think he's I'm trying to think, because I don't know, I'm not going to say this probably the right way, but like he's almost like the voice for the audience, or like he feels like you're like the audience is into the situation, because like he reacts, like you said, probably most realistically, most human. He's not trying to be too macho, but like he is scared, and like he almost crumbles a couple of times. But he is entertaining. He's very entertaining. Like what are the things? Just like it's like, how can I get out of this chicken shit outfit?
Yeah, he's Hudson. He's there. You're gonna hear him, for better or worse.
Now, I mean, this is a spoiler, but he dies. He goes out pretty cool though, right? I mean, because like he's kind of like pissing his pants and being scared for a while, but then I think like towards his end, I mean, he was going down swinging, right?
Yeah, but it's for such a short time period of while they're there. I don't want to say growth, because that implies a much larger story arc, but by the time he does pass, it's almost a different Hudson, but it's a better Hudson.
He's a character. I think he's a lot of people's favorite character in the movie. And it's interesting because he truly is a supporting player in the movie. I mean, other people, Vasquez and Hicks. I always get Hicks mixed up with Hudson. But there are a lot of really cool people in it, and I really like that. Not just because of the fact that I like Bill Paxton in other movies, but he's worth talking about in the movie, and I think as a supporting character he does the part a lot of justice, but then also I think probably gives hope honestly to other supporting actors that work in movies, that it's like, hey, just because you're not the leading star of a movie doesn't mean that you can't be remembered.
Very good point. But we have to address Ripley though.
I mean,
Sigourney Weaver as her, I don't know too many actors, I should say, but I don't know who you could have subbed in her place for that. But the role, the character, for such a time when it was very 80s movies, Rambo, Terminator, with all the male macho muscle leads, you have Sigourney Weaver just being amazing with her toughness. She is badass in both a action-y fighting way, but also just mental and
well,
it's a great perspective for this.
I completely agree with everything that you just said. Because let's go back to the first Alien movie. Ridley Scott cast her, and you know, even in that movie, now granted, now her character definitely is much more of a badass in Aliens, because in Alien, you know, she's still, I don't even know like what Wayland's company is, but like they're just essentially what, like drillers, or
No,
that's not the right word. They're just like freight workers, truckers, space
No.
truckers.
To my understanding, they are just a conglomerate, a major company. They test everything from, you know, prescription meds to, like you said, mining and resources. It's I don't think they want to rely on anyone else but themselves. So that's why you see them so much in all the movies, is that that's how far their reach is. Wayland's in everything, for good or for bad.
Which we are going to get to Wayland later, but going back to Ripley, she's not a soldier in Alien. That's the point I'm trying to make, because by the time all the events happen from Alien to Aliens, she's still not a soldier in Aliens, but obviously she's more seasoned. She has experience.
Well, she got a long nap.
She did get a long nap. She's well rested.
Helped,
I always wonder, like, I promise we're gonna stay on point with this, but the cat. What is the cat?
Jonesy?
Yeah, Jonesy.
Yeah.
I just like. I can't think of another movie where hypersleep has an animal doing it too, and like, I mean, granted, I'm not saying the cat's a pivotal character to the movie, but like nothing happens to the cat.
And they don't necessarily focus it or say, oh, you know, Jonesy didn't make it. But he's right there. He survived the first encounter, and hell, he's here again.
That is cool. Jonesy, we love you. Yes. You're a good cat. What were we just talking about?
Ripley as a character and
yes.
Sigourney Weaver as a role.
So, going to Aliens, I thought it was really great for James Cameron that, you know, he still took all the great aspects of Ripley from the first movie, and I'm not going to say this correctly, but I really love the fact that like they don't like try to like celebrate or make it obvious that they're like, she's a tough woman amongst men. No. They never do that. And they also don't like over-sexualize her. They don't do anything like that. She is a well-rounded character, and especially in Aliens, because she's in a sea of tough dudes.
Yeah.
And still rises above a lot of them, and still, like you said, expresses this like inner strength and courage and just integrity. And I mean, Sigourney, like you said, I don't know who else would play it.
And that actually brings up, I think part of why that toughness came out is, and you just made me think of this, early on when the company is having her recount her story for the millionth time, and she finally kind of cracks and says, you know, if even one of those things gets down here, all this shit you think's important, it's gone. I think that's what actually helped her character grow so much and become tough, because once she was down there, she's like, this is my situation. I got to deal with it, and I know the consequences if I don't. So she doubles down and becomes the leader of anyone who's left alive.
Yeah, she definitely has. There's a lot of actual, like, you know, real good leadership qualities that she exemplifies, I think, in the movie. And yeah, just a really great character. And Sigourney Weaver, I mean, she was at like probably like the peak of her career. I mean, she's done, of course, other great things.
Galaxy Quest.
Dude, Galaxy Quest.
That's a different episode.
Galaxy Quest would be worth doing an episode on for a lot of different reasons.
Oh, so many.
I would say real quick, just to give Galaxy Quest credit. I mean, one, if you haven't seen it, it's going to be a recurring thing on this podcast. I mention other movies during these episodes, especially ones I like. But Galaxy Quest in particular is such a smart movie because it does a spoof of a genre, but still gives it a good story. And that is so rare in that particular genre to be able to pull that off.
Yes, the rare parody that the story actually matters and isn't just there for setup.
Yeah, exactly. But Galaxy Quest, we should definitely maybe I'll have you on for that if you ever want to do this again.
We'll see how this one turns out.
That's right. Okay, so beyond the characters, looking past that, you know, your favorite moment.
Whoa, we didn't.
Wait.
We gotta just. I mean, you got Hicks, you got Bishop.
Okay. All right. You want to?
Like, we've been talking about all these personalities and saying how individually they're integral to the movie.
This is true.
So I just a little. Just a
No,
little
that's okay. I'm totally down. Let's talk about Bishop.
Bishop. So first, I'm going to get my one gripe of Bishop out of the way, and it's not even so much his character. It was a choice that James Cameron took, or whoever made this decision. But we know from the first one, the android on Ripley's team, yeah, he kills a few people. He goes haywire. So, but when you're introduced to Bishop, you know, he does his knife trick. He's very calm. He's not automated very much, but and Ripley, rightfully so, has a fear about him.
Well, they don't tell, if I remember right, they don't tell her that he's a synthetic, but during the knife thing, he spills a drop of his white blood, and then she's like, what the hell? I don't want this robot around.
Yeah, and that's what they do. But as the movie goes on, Bishop he's there and doing his role, but there's one part where they try and make you think he's going to go the way as what the other android did. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like that was wasted screen time.
Which part is that? Can you refresh me?
One of the Marines comes over to give Bishop some supplies while he's dissecting one of the face huggers. Mm-hmm. And the music changes a bit, the tone, and then when the guy asks Bishop questions, they're short replies, and it's like they're trying to make you think, oh no, is he going bad? Mm-hmm. But the problem is they don't even hint at that before that or after. It's it's the one little damper scene on his character. Okay. I don't think it needed to be there. I think the audience had accepted that Bishop's a more safer, stable android.
Yeah, I mean,
but he does do what he's told, because sleazy man Burke does tell him, you know, hey, those specimens are to be kept alive. So he's still a little, hey, I have to listen to people, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to go back and revisit some of that stuff with Bishop. I always thought that, you know, the few kind of hints that they did give where it's like, oh, is he going to be good or kind of bad? I didn't mind it so much because, I mean, I thought just from Ripley's perspective, that fear or apprehension made sense to have of androids because, you know, Sam, I think, is the android in the... Isn't the name Sam? So. The scientist? I mean, he's the scientist.
It's been a long time.
The science officer. That's who he's supposed to play. He's played by Bilbo. I shouldn't call him Bilbo. He actually... Ian
that was
Holm.
his greatest role.
Yeah, well... Yeah, I mean, it's a very good role. Fifth Element, though. What about him in that? It's If you've seen that movie, you know what we're talking about.
We're sorry in advance.
No, I have no apologies for that. It's great weird moment in that movie. That movie's kind of a weird one. Anywho, but yeah, for Bishop, I like Lance Henriksen, and I thought that I like that it was refreshing to like see that like there wasn't going to be like some twist where he did go bad. I did like that, you know, really he stayed true. And then just from like a robot standpoint, I won't go too deep on this, but I always like movies that kind of dabble with the subject matter of like, you know, how much can you really trust a machine, and like, you know, can you really develop an emotional attachment? And I don't know, I liked it for the case of Bishop because, you know, by the end of the movie, I think he's a likable presence, and you do like him even though he's a machine. And I just always like that conversation that sparks of like, can you become attached, or is it fine to be attached to something that's not human?
Well, and I think part of that is because by the end, aside from when he gets torn in half and clearly you tell he's a machine.
I hate that part. I mean, like I hate it just because like I liked him so much, and so when it happens, it's like a gut punch to the audience.
But you really forget that he's an android, and then that kind of answers your questions of how far could a relationship with that go as far as trust is all. But now that you mention, you know, they addressed Ripley's fear of him, they do make... That scene that I had spoke about earlier probably would have been a little more off-putting if it was Ripley asking him the questions and being in the room, because then you'd have the same suspicion as her because you're in her mindset when she's on screen. So, but you forget he's a robot or an android, and that's a tough trick to do because you also can't make him too human. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like, well, why even label him an android? But you know, they work it in because. Like when he has to go repair the satellite dish, no human could have crawled through that tube. I don't care, they might fit.
Could Andy Dufresne do it? Shawshank Redemption. He crawled through a mile of
I don't think
shit.
there's enough. I don't think there's enough motivation for him in this one.
I don't think. Yeah, he might. No. He might not like the crew that much to crawl through poop.
No.
Yeah,
but
that'd be hard.
That's without. I mean, what happens if he wasn't there for that scene? What happens?
Well, they're all dead.
They're dead. They couldn't. No one could have crawled through that.
Right.
So, but I digress.
No, you're good. What about Hicks? Because that's Michael Biehn. This is gonna sound bad, but like, I don't have like a ton of thought on him because like Michael Biehn is likable and he is good, and I'm glad that he is one of the ones that survives in the end. And I thought he had good also leadership qualities about him. He's kind of he becomes the head commander unintentionally because the other guy dies. And anyway, but what did you think about Hicks?
Well, to bring up when he became the commander, I think a lot of that helps because, you're introduced to Gorman, who's implied that he's, sort of fresh out of the academy. He's by the books. He knows the role he's supposed to play. And he does do admirable in that he's in charge at first until shit hits the fan. But, inevitably, like you said, Hicks starts taking over even before Gorman passes. And Gorman realizes, I think, that is better for the team and situation. He doesn't argue with him, and that is another element that helps them survive. But I think the reason, like you said, he's likable. His character is reasonable at the same time. Everyone else is kind of mocking Ripley for, she saw an alien. Mm-hmm. But he's the one person at first that asks, so what is this thing? He's the only one that does that.
Yeah, he's actually more open-minded.
He's more open, and there you go. I think that's what it was. And then, and granted, this isn't fair to Gorman, but when Hicks does take charge, he knows his team. He knows how Hudson's going to work. He knows how Vasquez is going to work, and he can talk a little more with them as a connection, whereas Gorman, he does have the textbook ideas and stuff, but that level isn't there, and that's what helps.
Yeah, Hicks has kind of like a street smart to him.
Yes.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say about him and the dynamic he actually has with Ripley, because I thought James Cameron, because I may need to look it up, but I believe he was at least a co-writer. He helped write the movie or wrote the movie himself. Actually, I got the movie synopsis up here. Yeah, okay, he wrote the screenplay. Never mind.
Good.
But the thing I was going to say is that I really like that they develop a bond and there's like a hint that it could be a romantic one, like at least eventually, but they never really really do a thing where like it's like, oh, like they like fall in love or something like that. And I'm not saying it would be bad if they did, but I just like that they kind of hint at it, but they don't really do anything more with that. It's just a refreshing take on it.
They showed them turning into a friendship.
Yeah.
Whereas amidst all the chaos, it's not a shoehorned love story, which I think is what you were getting at. But
well, I think they have there's like a mutual attraction there. Like, I think you can feel it, but they're not like. I mean, they're in a situation where like there's aliens. They're trying to kill them.
They're not like Vasquez and Drake.
Yes.
So, but that is real good for both of their characters to have that.
Yeah, they keep their wits about them, and I don't know. It made sense for the story, and I like that aspect.
I like when that can be done. To once again bring up just one other movie here, but Constantine,
the Keanu Reeves one.
Keanu Reeves, 05. They do the same. Granted, there's a few more little hints that maybe they'll have a relationship.
Yeah,
but
Rachel Weisz in that.
Yeah, they stay on track, and I almost enjoy that a lot more than if they had ended up romantically. And that goes the same with Ripley and Hicks.
There's nothing wrong with like characters that develop romantic and whatnot. I mean, it's fine, but I think it is just nice when there's just a good friendship that's represented. It's nice.
It's a lesser direction. Mm-hmm. Cameron nailed it.
Yes, he did. Let me actually jump over because I know you want to talk some other characters too. Yes. But Vasquez.
What would you like to know?
Well, just I mean, she. Well, one, would you be intimidated? Like, say Vasquez is real, you see her, are you going to be intimidated? Because like she's a tough one. She's tough.
I'm respecting her.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
But she was one character that I honestly didn't expect to survive. With how her and Drake's attitude, and especially when he...
You thought that she might, like, die early?
Yeah, I thought she would be cut off. But, so I was pleasantly surprised with that. And how... I feel like I'm a broken record here, but just how her character collects herself and acts after the shit hits the fan. It's
true.
It's a very different yet strong attitude from her.
Now, you're gonna have to refresh my memory because again, you've seen this movie more than I have.
Yes, I binge watched this. Yeah.
But if my memory serves, when we get closer to the moment where she dies, it's with Gorman, right?
It is.
And maybe I'm reaching here, or maybe I'm drawing a connection that's not there. But I kind of remember what I liked is that it eventually became apparent that once Gorman's control started deteriorating, that people stopped respecting him as much. Like there was clear animosity and anger towards him not knowing what he's doing and blah blah blah. But I felt like Vasquez, it was kind of interesting because towards the end they had each other's backs, and Gorman may have been a questionable leader at times, but then towards the end they had each other's backs. And the way they went out both together still showing a care for each other despite the situation. Maybe I'm reaching, but I like that.
And that's because he got to see her, both the good and the bad, before the situation, after the situation. But yeah, you bring up a good point in that when they do inevitably die, she's not ashamed to die with him. She's not upset that that's who came back for her. Mm-hmm. She is just happy that someone tried and that he had a way out that wasn't as painful as a face hugger ripping you to shreds.
They really went out. I mean, now granted, this is science fiction, it's an alien situation, but I mean, I don't know, it was very much how I would picture a soldier, true sense of the soul, the sense of the word soldier, how someone would want to go out in a situation like that.
Yeah,
it was very, very cool, very honorable.
They both stepped up in the horribleness, and died with dignity isn't the right word, but died with
integrity.
Integrity, maybe.
I think that better. But and that's one of the great parts just about all resolved.
They're not dying with resolve, but
that's not bad.
No.
That makes sense. But that's what I like about all the characters, though, is even the ones that get picked off, it's not like some slasher movie where they die or some die in an unmemorable way. Every time one dies, it stands out. Yeah. You're just oh man, they get killed in a unique way, or it still has there's the character is still. I'm not making sense here. The character motivations or it goes into the story.
You're actually touching on a point that I didn't think of, in that for the most part everyone dies a little different in that film.
It's true.
And this can be looked at as the growth of the movie as a sequel. Previously, in the first one, it's just one by one, and like Ripley said, her crew wasn't soldiers.
No.
But despite the soldiers in this one having technology, combat training, all that, they still end up getting picked off in a variety of ways. But that also helps Cameron evolve the xenomorphs as... they're not just mindless animals.
No,
they have strategies. They can read a situation. They know. They can think, and they can not. I don't want to say think like soldiers, but they can fight and they can think. And with you saying that, they all die memorably, that shows it, because they all died differently. I mean, the Xenos are the ultimate cause of it, but there is a uniqueness there.
No, I think that's absolutely. You're absolutely spot on for that. The thought that actually went into the creatures, I think, is really apparent throughout the movie. And I want to talk about the creatures, but is there any other character that you specifically wanted to touch on? I know we talked about the cigar chewing sergeant. Sergeant Apone or Apone or
Apon, I think.
Apon.
That's what I believe. Sometimes I have trouble saying names.
For the sake of this podcast, we will refer to him as Apon.
Okay, I like
that's fine. Even if we're wrong, we're calling him Apon.
No, he was a good Sarge. He wasn't like Gorman too. and once again, it shouldn't be fair, but they're both in leadership roles, so you have to compare them.
But he came off as like the stereotypical tough drill sergeant.
Yes, but he also knew his team as well. And
yes.
That's why I think you care a bit more about him than Gorman, is because he's trying to ride the line between, I work with these people and I know them, but I do have someone who outranks me telling me what to do, and he needs to walk that, and he does it so well.
Now, I know we had watched a clip actually before, just because we couldn't figure out how to pronounce his name. We thought maybe they would say it in there. Maybe they did. We ran out of time to do that. Yeah. But you said that you knew the meaning when he does that part where he's just look into my eye.
Yes.
I mean, was he just being funny there? You said there's a meaning to that?
Yeah. Okay, and disclaimer, I did look this up a while ago, so I might be wrong. But what I take it now as is, since he says look into my eye, it's, do I look like I give a shit? Do you see me caring?
Ooh, okay.
I'm pretty sure that's the answer that I got, but
that's cool.
That's why, Hudson asked for his slippers, and the Sarge, do you think I care about that?
I gotta ask, have you worked this into a real life moment? Have you done this to someone yet?
No, because sadly it'd be lost. I don't think, because look, even you did not know what that phrase meant.
No, I just thought he was being, attitude or something.
You have seen so many movies and cultures and yet that one, so I can't imagine telling that to the average person. I don't think they might not got it. I would love to.
Do they have to appreciate the reference though? I mean, you'd feel good about it. Do they need to know?
No, but I feel like I'd have to explain it.
Yeah, they might.
And then that ruins a lot of jokes or anything. Really.
That's true. Yeah, if you have to over-explain it, it loses what makes it special in the first place. What other characters are there? Because I know there's probably a few others.
There are a few others, but the last one I would like to touch on is Newt.
Yeah, because,
most kids in movies, and granted, I haven't seen a lot, but I don't usually like the child role because it's there for, I don't know, it's the kids, they scream, they're needy, they hinder everything.
I want you to keep your thought. I'm not trying to interrupt, but it actually reminds me of video games, actually in particular, because I agree in a lot of movies, kid actors, some of them can just come off annoying, or they're bad, or they're just baggage. But in particular, I think about video games with the kids, because it's always anytime you have an escort mission, you got to protect the kid. In a way, movies can kind of feel that way when there's a kid actor that's questionable if they work.
And they're never gonna help your situation. If anything, they just hinder. And when they find Newt, immediately out the door, they show this girl's resourceful. She is terrified and scared, but she's alive, which says something about her. Ripley even later tries to address her and treat her like a child, just trying to form the connection. But when she asks about her doll, is saying, does she have bad dreams or whatever? And Newt again shows a more maturity of, she can't have bad dreams. She's just plastic.
Right.
So, but she is still a kid. She never picks up a gun to fight or whatever. You get the little haha when she has one of the the Marines' helmets on and gets the sloppy salute. But throughout the movie, in her situation, when they're trying to escape in the APC, Newt, she goes and hides in a corner, not because she's scared, because she thinks that spot is going to be the safest for her.
Yeah,
she doesn't claw at Ripley and help. You do not see that from her.
Yeah.
And yes, she does scream a bit, but it is a horror movie. You got aliens after you. But
I mean, they're freaky. Even
when she gets to her most vulnerable stage of when the aliens finally get her and start cocooning her, she doesn't break down. She's scared, but she doesn't break down.
Yeah. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that you said about Newt that I think you're absolutely right that work. And actually, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, there are actually a lot of people that really like the character Newt. It's not just like you said,
it's
a kid.
But it's hard to write a kid role. But
but it's not just a kid role in this. That's what's good.
Because a kid wouldn't have survived. That's
No.
why Newt's the only one left.
No, but they also treat it, like you said, they treat it realistically because early on in the movie, I mean, she clearly has PTSD.
Yeah.
Like, 100%.
She is locked up mentally.
Yes. But, like you said, they didn't, like, treat it like the whiny kid or whatever. I mean, they had her be a kid when it was appropriate to be a kid, but there was still a character there.
Yes.
They still had a well-rounded character that had specific emotions, that was reacting to the environment, and there was just clearly thought that you could see that was put into it, and it wasn't just a kid.
Yeah. I mean, she was a bit more real. It's like when the ship crashes, and Ripley tells her, sorry, we're not going back. She's like, you don't have to be sorry. It wasn't your fault. She knows the situation sucks.
I really like the part. It's not. They just. It's a reference to New. It's not with her, but I think there's a part where like Hudson's like pissing his pants about something, and I think it's Ripley that says, "This kid survived here for like 3 weeks or something. Like you're a soldier, like with a gun.
Yeah.
Like shut up.
Why don't you put her in charge?" That's that.
Is that what he says?
Yeah,
He's just like,
that's
yeah. Why don't you put her in charge then, man?
Yeah. But it's kind of amazing that Ripley could point to a child and say,
Yeah,
"Look
child's
what
got more
you-"
bravery than you.
Not so much more bravery, but more I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think it does give Hudson a bit of a wake up call too.
That's true, because I think he
he
changes
starts
a
to
little
get-
bit after that.
With the right people and the right things said to him, he does.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you get to see him go from goofy comedy kinda to, he's still funny, but you start seeing the soldier in him more.
I also really liked just one more thing with Hudson, just because we brought him up again. But I really like Ripley and how, I'm assuming this was probably from the writing more so than anything else. But I really like one of the scenes where he's getting really scared and like he's kind of having a breakdown and stuff. She kind of snaps him out of it, but she does it with some compassion. And there's a part where she like kind of does the calm, like come on, like be calm. But she calmly like states after she like kind of snaps at him that she's just like we need you.
Yeah,
we need you, Hudson. Like she's not just like babying him or anything like that. She's just like, no, like we genuinely need you in this situation to like keep your cool.
No,
and she was very the way she handled it and the way it was, again, I gotta credit James Cameron with that. Fantastic.
And maybe maybe some of you think we're overanalyzing scenes, but that one right there, because she's not just telling him that because he's annoying or something, or one might think, well, she just wants him alive and well because he's another gun. No, she wants him alive and well because she wants everyone alive and well.
Right.
And that's why she
To
doesn't just
increase their odds for survival,
Yeah.
they need to be.
But she doesn't also want to see anyone die. So that's why in that scene, yeah, she gives him a little bit of tough love, but she treats him as him and not just, hey, I need you as a functioning military guy. No, I need you and your attitude and your knowledge. I need all that.
Yeah.
And if we don't have you, our odds go lower because of that.
Thing is, I think it's a smart observation, and I think it is easy to, quote unquote, overanalyze scenes or look into them. But this is the thing. Now, maybe from a general audience perspective, like it's easy to draw that kind of conclusion. But I promise you, Jared, from all the stuff I know about movies and my love for it and everything like that, there is a reason why a lot of movies sometimes take years, long time in the pre-production process to write the scripts and do everything, is because every scene there is an intentionality behind it and there is thought put into it, and it's good to do that. And I think the best movies, the ones that hold up, like in Aliens, it's because there clearly was thought in every sense of the script and how it worked.
That's a very good point. And yeah, nothing is done out of, oh, this is our typical movie, we put this scene in here. It helped it be individual.
Now, special effects.
Yes.
I want to talk about that because we referenced this. We're gonna find whoever you are, dude, on Screen Junkies that talks about the blood squibs.
Yes.
But the effects in this, like a lot of James Cameron movies, I mean, James Cameron is an absolute innovator when it comes to his effects in movies, and the effects of Aliens are second to none. And the effects in this are absolutely insanely good, and they 100% hold up. I'm not being a fanboy on that, to be clear.
No, they do, because, and this is more, I guess, a bit of the industry as a whole, whereas CGI started taking place of things. The 80s to 90s to mid 90s, I think, maybe a little later, but they did have the blood squibs. They had the actual. I mean, it looked almost real. It
was more reliance on practical effects.
Yes, and that I think helped helped the other movies of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone. That's what made their characters even tougher.
100%.
Look at the damage these guys are inflicting, but it also shows you how real a situation can be.
Yes.
Like there isn't that's actually, I'm rolling into this, usually the hero gets the one gunshot in the shoulder to show they're a little no. But back then, and again because I watched Terminator, gunshots hurt.
Yep.
They cause damage. It's ugly and it's scary, and
you have to have that grit to a movie like this to have it work.
Grit.
Yeah.
True grit.
I like that movie. It was a fill your hands, you son of a bitch. That's God.
But no, the effects were the effects themselves. And you could argue they're worse or better, but Jordan and I have talked this many times. We both prefer practical effects.
Yes.
It keeps you in it so much better. Maybe you're limited to what you can do, but
the best filmmakers in the world, especially ones that deal with science fiction in particular, because that's, where effects are really going to be a requirement for the story, both from a practicality standpoint, but then just from an atmosphere and world building standpoint. And what I would say in the case of Aliens is that, now, you could argue that a lot of it is, well, they have to do a lot of practical stuff because it's the 80s and they're limited to what they have and yada yada. If it was made today, would they, really lean into the technology thing? And this is what I would say for that, is that the best filmmakers in the world that deal with special effects, they're not afraid to use computer-generated imagery, or CGI as it's commonly referred to. They're not afraid to use it as long as it serves the story. I know that seems like the most basic way of looking at effects, but effects, you can have the most crazy computer effects in the world. I don't care. And if a movie is going to have all crazy computer effects and no practicality, but it makes sense for what the story ultimately is doing, then do it. But in the case of Aliens, it does such a good job of having practical, handmade puppets. I mean, Stan Winston and his special effects team, the guy was the GOAT when it came to special effects, and he's still a legend of the industry, but they still have the stuff of space and the spaceships and miniatures and whatnot, and they did that, but they did such a good blend of bothness, but mostly practical.
It just helps to add so much, because also I'm gonna switch over to H.R. Geiger. I might be pronouncing his name.
He's the guy who came up with the alien.
Right, but you got your chest burst scene, that one person they find, and that is bloody. There's
Is that the scene with the woman that's like, please kill me? She's all caked up against the wall.
You already know she's in a bad situation, but because of the effects, it's worse somehow. I don't know how, but to me that, once again, it keeps you in it, in the moment. And
well, also you have to, just from a purely technical standpoint, I don't care if you are super into it or not. Now, an audience member, when they watch a chest burster scene and it's bloody and it's gruesome and whatever, I don't know. A part of me, I feel like that. I feel this, that emotion. I'm affected by what I'm seeing, but at the same time, I'm like, that is so cool. That is just the fanboy in me, the person that just loves filmmaking and techniques. I'm like, how did they do that? That is amazing that they made that look so convincingly, and there is clearly blood. There's clearly some kind of a setup. The imagination that takes is absolutely incredible.
You actually bring up a good point in that they show it.
Yes, now, they don't shy away from it.
No, because we said they were limited to what they could do. They could have, I'm not the best with, camera angles and all that, but they could have, implied things or, showed less. No. When those scenes are happening, that's all you're looking at. You can't look away.
It's true.
And that's why the effects had to be so good and so practical, which I'm going to use to segue into the xenomorph itself. And, technology has come a long way, and it does look good. But if I saw, they come out of the goddamn walls, you didn't see them blending there, but you see them move, and since it's a practical effect, you see it as it would be in your world. Whereas if computer, they might have made it too smooth. Like, you see this perfect jump down, or movement. It's like, no, it's a creature still. It has some weight to it. It's gonna, and you get to hear the tail and all that. Not saying that wouldn't be there without special effects, but because it's in the world like that, it adds the little extra fear of, oh God, imagine if I saw that next to me.
All right, well, let's entertain that hypothetical notion, Jared. A xenomorph has just come into the room. What do?
I run. I cry. I run. I do. I crap my pants in hopes that it doesn't want me anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, is it like a thing like with bears? Like, if I just like play dead, will it go away?
I don't know. I think the bears made that up so they could eat people easier.
What comedian jokes about that?
Jim Gaffigan, I give him credit.
I can't remember what is the setup that he does for that?
I don't remember, but he's like, that was in someone told him to do that.
Just I mean the bears.
Yeah.
I'm picturing it in my head. That's funny.
It is. They could have. Yeah.
I will say, Xenomorph as a creature, I mean, I don't care if it's a science fiction movie or not. It is absolutely one of the most terrifying creature designs that I've ever seen. Like, it's H.R. Geiger. Like, if he was ever alive, like, that is a man I would want to like talk to just to see how in the hell that came out of his mind.
You might be scared.
I think I would be. No, I think I would be. I don't think it would be like some pleasant answer. I mean, it's
no, and that's actually what to touch on that is it's. Oh God, what the hell was I gonna say just now?
It was about the creature design.
Oh, the creature isn't designed just for fear and grotesqueness.
No.
It does, the anatomy was taken into account of it, and since they are supposed to be the ultimate species or something, there is a sleekness to them in a way.
Absolutely.
And how they can move and everything. And without that design, I don't think that'd work that well.
No, I think the creature in particular, I mean, movies as a whole, when they're being constructed, especially science fiction, you have to put a lot of thought and different ideas behind the world, and directors, and I'm gonna get a bit into like just movies and how they're made, but like production designers and whatnot, they're setting up the world, and there's always these concept artists that have to storyboard out stuff like this because, like you said, it can't just be a creature. You have to think about the anatomy, the environment, how it moves, its intelligence level. What are the rules with it? There's so many different factors that go into it.
Yeah, and if you half-ass that, you're losing your audience a bit right there.
It's true. But the acid blood in particular, I think, is an interesting. I mean, there's so much about the creature that you can say, but the acid blood in particular, just from a story standpoint, it can create so many situations.
Yeah, it's also unique. I mean, I haven't seen every movie, but
which ones have you seen? Just real quick, I want to clarify that.
Disclaimer for everyone: I mainly just binge Aliens. I have seen the first one once or twice. I did like it. Mm-hmm. I've never seen 3. I've never seen 4. I saw Prometheus once. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I own Covenant. Haven't watched it.
It's worth it.
And then most recently, the Aliens Fireteam Elite game came out, and that has just been a blast. If you love Aliens,
we will close this on video games.
That is the knowledge I am picking from. So if something happened in the 3rd or 4th or any of the films I didn't list, I just simply do not know and can't incorporate that stuff into my answers.
No, that's perfectly fair. No big deal. Now, I want to pose another hypothetical to you. We talked about what would happen if the xenomorph comes in here. You're going to piss your pants, probably crap yourself. I likely speaking would...
I mean, I might push
I feel like I'm going to do deer in the headlights. Just like I'm going to be terrified and not move, and it's just going to eat me.
I'm going to take I don't have to run faster than it, just faster than you.
What is that from?
I mean, it's kind of a common thing, but you're thinking without a paddle.
I am thinking of that.
Yeah.
Underrated
movie. If you're a dick, that's a sound strategy.
You're kind of a dick, and I mean, like, you Yeah, I'm the little brother. You'd probably like get some
I
like
got
sick,
another-
sick enjoyment from pushing me into
I
it.
have another one.
Another what?
Little brother.
You're gonna
So
feed him to
just-
the xenomorphs too?
No, but just losing one, I'm still, I still got a little brother.
That's true.
So
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, that's. This is interesting.
You don't
hearing.
want me in an emergency situation with you.
Maybe not.
No.
I'm like I'm rethinking a few things from talking about this out loud. No, but this is what I was going to suggest is bigger picture. Say we're in a real situation where NASA, whoever, SpaceX, I don't know, they discover a planet of the xenomorphs. Are you going to nuke it from orbit to be safe, or are you going to like kind of do the Weyland thing and be like, well, let's study it and let's see. Like, we don't know enough about this creature. We could weaponize it. Who knows?
Well, maybe I'm overthinking this, but you said the planet of the xenomorphs, but
Sure, yeah.
it was a ship.
It's true.
That LV-426 is not their planet, and
No.
I saw Prometheus once, but I feel like I thought it was kind of the same vibe as they were bred there. Did they ever address where they natively come from, or if there is, or are they just genetically made by the engineers?
Okay, so we could definitely go on the deep end. No, I mean like this is one of the reasons I love Aliens as a science fiction world, because there is so much mythology to it, and I love that there's some ambiguity and stuff that you don't know. To answer your question, Prometheus, not technically speaking, it is a prequel to Alien and Aliens. It's before the events for that, and like you said, it's not like they go to this planet and it's like the Xenomorphs planet. They are found on a ship, as they are in a lot of the other ones.
Yep.
Now, however, in Covenant, I know you haven't seen it, and I won't spoil too much.
Thank you.
But they do get to the engineer's home world. I can't remember if they identify like what the planet's called, like what the name is. There is some type of a name for it. But the movie is smart about showing like how the alien is engineered, because it is not like just a natural creature. It is created. But the movie isn't like super straight on like, okay, like this is where it's created and like this is like its origin. It still kind of plays some ambiguity with it.
And that's good, because it adds to kind of the fear of it. Because if you know where they come from, well, that you can focus that. But if you don't know how many ships were out there that crashed with them, just because you found their homeworld doesn't mean you're slowing them down. They're already out there.
That's very true.
So
I'm trying to think if I would, if they were real, just like what we would want to do with them. Because I don't know. I mean, I never really, I guess, understood the whole like they're the perfect creature design. Other than that, like they're like cockroaches and they're very resilient to things.
Yeah, I don't think they're perfect. No, but they are.
They can't hold a
elite
conversation.
Hunters.
That's true.
But if found today, obviously, a few deaths would have happened, and it was a bad decision. It was bad, and I'm sorry, but sorry, had to be Burke there.
No,
but
it's real.
It would depend, I think, on how much the general population knows, because otherwise there probably would be a large populace of you can't exterminate any creature. If the military are the ones who find them, yes, I think that part where Burke is trying to sell them that way, that's spot on accurate. They would eat those things up, or vice versa, but they would weaponize the shit out of that as quickly as they could. So, but if we were somehow all able to make one decision on it, I like to hope and think that we would just say, you know what, these aren't good for anyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bomb it.
Nuke it from orbit.
What was that SNL skit? This is how my brain works. I think of references, and Jared and I do this sometimes. What was the thing? There's that skit where like Chris Walken is like playing some, I don't know, some French like diplomat or something, and they're like, "What's your solution to this? Bomb it, blow it up."
I don't think I've seen that one.
I don't know.
I apologize.
No, that's okay. I was definitely pulling that one out of left field a little bit.
But there is a good. I want to say it was College Humor, where they give they have a team of people like from Aliens, and they're like, here's what you do when you're on an alien planet. Poke them with a stick. Stick your head in this hole. And that was a great retrospect of that. But,
let me ask go ahead.
I just wanted to add that, this is just a quick thought, but it does seem like not many of the characters in this were stupid. Like, to do that. Like, there usually is the token, "Ooh, I'm not thinking this through," or,
Yeah.
poke it with a stick. No, most of them actually have their wits about them.
It's true, because especially in Aliens in particular, because I'm thinking of like Prometheus in particular, just because I know you've seen it like once or twice, but there's some dumb character decisions in that.
Yes,
like
and
for sure.
That's again what makes Aliens so great, is there's not many.
No, like most of them, even the ones that are mistakes,
They're mistakes.
Yeah,
that's it.
You get it.
They're not. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You might have. Yeah, but anyway, back. You had a question.
I had a question about Weyland-Yutani.
Okay.
The corporation. Now, I love that they carry that theme over most definitely from the first Alien, is that this is like it's like one of the biggest corporations in the world. You could attribute it to a lot of different things for that. But ultimately, you think, at least the movie establishes, this big business doesn't have good intentions. It's all about just making a profit. It's kind of this soulless, lifeless, big conglomerate that's just dominating things. At least that's the vibe that I get from it. And what I want to ask you about is, I mean, one, any thoughts that you have on the Weyland Corp and kind of the ambiguous, kind of almost like kind of scary vibe that the company gives off. Like there's like a looming presence about it. But what I want to ask is, do you think that there is like I'm trying to think, how do I phrase this? A lot of people just in today's world like tend to distrust big business. Like there's a lot of like, conspiracies about these big companies and what they do and like their ethics and things like that. Do you think that translated well into the Aliens movie with the Weyland Corp, or do you think that dynamic with this big, morose kind of bad company was good?
I think...
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it brings... Part of the reason they're so scary is because you never know their end goal.
Right.
They are in everything, and you can guess why, but you're rarely told what they're straight up trying to do.
Yeah.
But they're a necessary evil because
they have the resource.
You don't hear about, well, there's probably some somewhere, but I do not hear about any other company in these movies, which just shows you how far their reach is. I mean, Burke saying just the company, he doesn't even call it Weyland. He doesn't need to, because it's the company. Mm-hmm. But obviously, since they're so far everywhere, that's how a lot of people make their livelihood. And I think a lot of the populace would take, you know what, I'm just not going to think about it, because even if, say, I did find out they were doing something sinister, what could I do? Because if I did anything, I'd probably lose my job. And since they run and create all the jobs, I'd be blacklisted essentially, and I couldn't get a job. So they've stretched themselves and set it up meticulously so that people need them, and that people won't think to interfere. Otherwise, bad things will happen. But it's not like your direct, mob boss, I'm gonna burn your business down or something. It's just, guess what? You don't get any help anywhere. You don't get any resource because you tried to go after Weyland.
You brought up an interesting point with talking about that, because I mean, there's a lot that I can think about when I think of like big business and their reach and everything like that, or control. But you're reminding me of the power they have.
Yeah.
And power, I think, is a very important thing when you're talking about the Weyland Corp and the Aliens universe, because like you said, by the time whenever Aliens takes place, clearly Weyland is such a well-established company. They have, such a wide stretch. They have infinite, essentially, like they're just printing money, etc. It does show you that when a company, regardless of what they do, when they reach a certain size, there is like that question of, one, like how much bigger can they get, and then two, like you said, if they were really doing something bad, by the time they have all that control and power, what are you going to do?
How are you going to stop it?
I don't know. Yeah, and I mean, thankfully, I've never I've never been employed for like some huge thing like that, and that would I don't know what I would do. I feel like you wouldn't know what to do in a situation like that unless you have you're there, you're experiencing it.
No.
But I don't know why, but they don't really say a ton about Weyland. What they do. It's not like they have some mission statement that they talk about in the movie, but I've always liked the logo. The logo of Weyland. It's Don't
It's
they have
clean.
like a slogan? Like, we build better worlds? Isn't
yeah,
that
something like that.
Yeah.
But no, it's clean. It's not oversimplified. It's not complex. It's just a good logo.
It is a
As
good
weird
logo.
as that sounds.
No, it's not weird. I mean, I study graphic design,
But-
so I
but
like logos.
And then, but since they also have that, you know what that looks like, even though both of us don't really know much about the Wayland Corp from the franchise. But
No.
I bet you if, the second you see that on screen,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, everything you thought you knew, you're like, oh shit. They're here. Suddenly, there's so many different avenues this thing
Yeah.
could take. And that's part of, you have to have the good.
Well, that's one of the things I like from a story standpoint for Wayland, because all the movies, like, I mean, they definitely build off of it a little bit more, but every movie has clearly set up Wayland that, like you said, ultimately you don't know what their intention is.
No.
And that questionability of, okay, like, they have the resource, they helped us get here, but I don't know, they kind of have a track record of having some shady shit behind the scenes. That always makes for interesting, compelling content, and it really works throughout all the Alien movies. And I like that it's not like it's a central theme to the movie,
Yeah.
but it's always in the back of your head as an audience member that you're like, Wayland might backstab him anytime now.
Right. But also, it's because they're not painted as strictly evil. They make better worlds.
No, they do. They
But
terraform.
whereas, I'm going to jump to another franchise with Evil Company, but, in the Resident Evil, the Umbrella Corporation,
Yeah.
what's something good you know about them? Pretty much.
I mean, they're pretty
right
much just
from the
straight
get-go,
bad, right?
you're like, this is like Dr. Evil's evil organization. They're not even hiding what they're doing.
No, they're just pretty terrible.
They are, but Wayland, they're more complex.
Well, they're
and yet-
innovators.
They're more complex and yet simplified because they're everything. I don't know, and that makes
True.
That helps. That helps the franchise, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could talk more about the aspects of that, but yeah, big business in particular. I mean, I do think that's the thing I wanted to touch on, is that part of the reason I think that the distrust that they build for Wayland works, not just for the movie, but works as an audience member, is because there's some relatable truth to some of that distrust. Because there's been big businesses that have gone on record that have done some pretty terrible things, namely like an Exxon or a BP mobile company. There's companies that have done some bad stuff, and I think James Cameron and the original writers of Alien and whatnot, I think they understood that there is like a general sense of distrust towards certain bigger businesses, and they were smart to work those elements into this movie while not having it override the rest of the story, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
I think so. Would you work for Wayland? They're gonna pay you
I
a
don't
lot.
know if I'd have a choice.
I was gonna say they probably need. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah,
I want to work one of those power loaders.
that's the thing that she says to get away from her, you bitch.
Yep.
I had to enunciate that because the delivery in that is
Great.
killer.
But that brings up another character we didn't talk about. We skipped the Alien Queen.
The Alien Queen is absolutely a character.
I mean, how in depth can you go? But I want to share this just because I love it so much. Is when you first see her, Ripley Newt, scared shitless, trying to run, and
Yeah.
they stumble into that room, eggs, Xenos, and the biggest Xeno you had ever seen.
It's true.
Probably a foul stench too.
Well,
But-
the thing that stands out to me when I think of the Queen, because one, like, she's connected by all these tubes and,
Yeah.
and things, and then like she has that disgusting like intestine thing where like you see her like pooping the eggs out. I'm sounding like a 5-year-old on that, but that nasty bag that she's like giving birth to
Yeah.
the eggs, like it's so appalling or just gross.
Just
it feels nasty,
It does, but
and that was all practical.
yes.
I don't know if you've ever
And
looked at the
again-
behind the scenes,
again, you need that.
but just
If that part was CG,
But again, it's so easy to nerd out on the behind the scenes of a movie like this, because they built the thing and it was like to scale. Like it was freaking huge. I think they had like a team of people working with it on wires to like make it move.
No weird camera tricks to make it look bigger than it actually was.
No, and I just think like the level of talent that it takes to create something like that and still have it be, be believable. And I actually always think from the perspective of the kid for that. Now I know like the kid knows that she's making a movie, but like pretty convincing. I mean, I might be scared as a kid, Jared. I remember being a kid. I don't think I'd want to be around fake aliens.
No, but thankfully, I think there are some rules and regulations in place to make sure a child actor is suited for those kind of roles. That's a good point. I can't reference for sure, but
no, but that's a good point, though. I mean, there's definitely child standard laws when it comes to filmmaking. So, I don't. There's probably some.
But there are probably hell. They might have wanted some other kid, but showing them, hey, here's the movie you're on, and Nightmares. No, kid's out. So all right, we get Newt.
Interesting.
But the Alien Queen. I just want to bring up one scene with her in that it is when they stumble in, and you see the two, they're almost, I don't want to say guards, but soldiers. You see the other two xenomorphs blocking off each exit. They start rounding the corner slowly. Ripley knows that she is in a horrible situation, and so what she does is show that she's dangerous. Even though she's low on ammo and everything, she uses the flamethrower bit just over the eggs to show, even if, you come at me, this is what's going to happen. And the Queen wants to keep her eggs alive. And Jordan, you will attest to this, that I love the frenemy premise in any movie. And this isn't that, but it is, I think, the respect, because the Queen does indicate to each of the other xenomorphs to, hey, back off, so she can leave without causing trouble. And
because she's gonna kill her babies.
But then right there, that scene adds one more time another complexity to the xenomorph. I know
they're not just mindless eating machines.
A Queen read the situation and had enough to do like hey, we'll do a truce, so you can leave
temporarily, you don't kill my children.
I love anytime a movie does that.
That's smart
aspect, but that's how you instantly know that the Queen isn't just bigger, meaner Xeno.
Yeah.
No. She's scarier for other reasons.
Well, she moves differently too. Yep. Obviously, like they're, with her being like the I'm gonna sound like an idiot on this, but like the head hive, or the head unit.
Yeah.
I'm dumb. I'm not smart with that. But what I was gonna attribute the Alien Queen to and whatnot is that I think I can't say Geiger because I don't know how much he was involved with aliens. If he was, I'm not really certain. But my point is that I know Cameron and the team that worked on the Queen were very mindful, and they actually took real inspiration, I think, from like how ant hives worked and like beehives.
Okay.
They kind of, I think, treated it like, okay, kind of going back to like that anatomy of like, okay, like, there are other real creatures in life that have like a head, like a king and a queen or whatever, and like that's not a fake concept.
No, it's not some made up title just bestowed on them.
No,
they get that because there is a higher intelligence there, maybe.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
but it is the Queen. The Queen is creepy, but it is very cool. I mean, like I talk about building up to a perfect, almost a perfect ending. With the power loader, like you said. I mean, that, when the elevator opens and like they build it up so perfectly, you're like, who's that? And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh shit. It's Ripley.
Yeah. She has
the power
she knows
loader,
how to swing that thing.
Isn't okay, we live in 2021. Wouldn't a power loader doesn't even seem like that far-fetched of a technology thing to build. I mean, no. Right?
If we had to entertain the idea right now, I would think it's more of a cost than anything. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we could build those right now, but is the return on them going to be worth spending that much when you can just buy a shitty forklift probably and get the same?
But a shitty forklift is not cool.
No, you can't beat an Alien Queen with that.
No. Someone out there that is listening that has money and or engineering experience, please design one of these and pitch it to the U.S. government.
Or anyone, really.
Or any government. I mean, as long as it's
Tesla
cool.
might be all over that, really.
Actually, yeah, well, Elon Musk, he is a big movie guy, actually.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Just a quick little tidbit on him. He loves Spaceballs. I saw several interviews. He really likes Spaceballs, and I can't cite specific things that his company's built, but I know for a fact that he's gone on record and stated that there are several things that him and his teams have worked on that have references to designs in Spaceballs, because he's that big of a nerd and likes movies. I think I insanely respect him for that.
I'm grateful for that. Anyone to help keep that franchise in people's minds.
So the very last thing that I want to talk about, and then we'll start to wind this down, is just the lasting impact that Aliens had. And I don't mean like just, I talked about earlier how it's like a classic movie and, you know, people still clearly love it. I'm talking about what it's offshooted into, because you're a big gamer. Yep. I would say. I mean, like, you love video games, and Aliens in particular, there's other movies that have stemmed off into video game territory, but I feel like Aliens, now I'm not defending every single Aliens game, some are bad, but Aliens, just even beyond the movie, it's gone on to video games. There's novels, I think, that get made for it. There's artwork that people do for it, just because the creature designs are so unique. But as you play video games more than me, I'm just curious, like, just your perspective on Aliens stemming into more than just being movies.
Well, I think that, again, we have to thank Mr. Cameron for what he did with the second one, because, you know, the first was the cat and mouse hiding. That's what's hunting. One hunter, cat and mouse. The second grew it into something else, and that's what helps it continue to be relevant. And then in games, you know, it's you can play what version of the franchise you like best.
Yeah, because there's been games that have explored both aspects.
Only recently have they been good ones, to my knowledge. If you like the first film, you're gonna love Alien Isolation.
I was just gonna say that.
But if you're like me and you love the second film, you respect the hell out of it, but you're like, I want to be Hudson. I want to shoot.
You want to spray and pray.
Yeah, and recently, thankfully, a game, Aliens Fireteam Elite, came out and did that.
When did that come out?
August 24th.
Okay, so it's definitely very recent.
It is very recent.
I think. So. I mean, I haven't seen video games. They're not like my thing, but I can say like Jared and I, like, this is just some personal stuff. You know, I don't know. I still consider myself a gamer. We've played games our entire lives.
Yep.
And we grew up with them. Jared's always player 1. I'm always player 2. Is the dynamic. But anywho, going into to Alien video games on there, I do appreciate that just from video games, they've explored both like the horror aspects, but then also like the Marines, like the action shooting.
Yes, you can have multiple genres in one thing.
Do you have a favorite game, like favorite Aliens one?
Considering I have only played 2, I don't feel like that's fair.
You just played Isolation and Fireteam?
Yes, but I'm gonna play Fireteam over and over and over.
Have you beat it already?
Yes.
Is it there? Because there's a story, right?
Yeah, and it's not too bad.
How long is it?
I don't keep track of that too well.
Yeah,
but it's a good addition to the Aliens universe. It's supposed to take place like 35 years after the events of the film we're discussing. So,
do you hope that they make more games?
You know, yes and no, because it would depend on who's behind it and how much funds they have. This one was a smaller team, not as much collateral to work with, but they did great. But I don't know if someone larger, could they do what the Aliens franchise does, which, you know, and could they stay true to it? And you have to nail that environment. That's a big thing. If you
atmosphere is big,
you can put a xenomorph in, you know, other video games if you think, even other ones with monsters. But if you don't have that world around it, the Xeno gets a little less scary. So I would like to see a new one, maybe more of like almost an RPG that lets you.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, I don't know what the exact time frame is of the Aliens film, but after they wake up from their hypersleep, the mission lasts maybe a day or two. But
Yeah,
imagine
it is over. Like it
Yeah.
seems longer, but no,
not
it's
long.
probably like 2 days.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So,
Yeah.
but if I'd like to see one that could stretch that out, and it wasn't just hide from the Xeno or blast the Xeno. If it could touch on the scientific parts and just
world exploration.
Yeah.
I mean, because like I like that's part of the other reasons I actually like Aliens and all of them is that ultimately I like science fiction movies where they show people trying to explore new worlds,
Yeah.
new areas. Space travel is just an interesting, subject in general. So yeah, I mean that'd be cool if they expanded that.
yeah.
Now I guess have you ever? Because I know there's books. I mean, whether they're canon or not, like whatever. You read. Sometimes.
Yeah, but sadly I have not picked up one of those. I should. I probably would make the time for it, but maybe we can look up maybe whatever the best rated one is or something.
It's not a
and
bad
start
idea.
there.
Well, I guess the last thing I'll say just to wrap this up is that given your love of aliens and whatnot, I mean, you must be happy that it has such presence about it that people have taken the time and liberty to put it in books and video games and other things to build off of it.
Yes, because I was born after this movie. After. The hype from it could have died down long ago.
Mm-hmm.
But because it has its staying power and they did it so well, this year is the 35th anniversary of it.
Is it really?
It is.
Whoa.
But how many films get to celebrate 35 years and actually brag about it?
Yeah.
There's so many 80s, 90s movies that just, I'm not saying forgotten, but they don't get to do that. And since Cameron and Ridley Scott, what they built, what they shot, it lasted with people enough that someone like me who didn't get to grow up with it necessarily, I can still experience it. I can still see the horror because of how it was shot. The effects are practical. If none of that happened, I mean you could say that for anything, but
I think the perfect note to end this on is, I'm trying to think how best to say this, but a movie like Aliens to me, I mean any movie really is in a sense a miracle in a sense.
Yeah.
And I'm going to explain what I mean by that and why I think it matters to say for Aliens is that making a movie, from everything I know about it, I would love to actually be a part of making one day. I think that'd be incredible, but they are hard. And they employ, depending on the size of a film, potentially thousands of people. And people are coming together for a common goal, and you have so many different parts that need to coincide and make sense. And you have so many, when you're around creative people, I mean, I'd like to consider myself a creative person, and I just know the difficulties of trying to communicate a vision, especially to so many different people. And the point I bring with all that is that a movie like Aliens it's such a great movie for a lot of different reasons, but I always want to appreciate just how hard it is, how hard movies are to make and how much actually has to go right to make one be as impactful and last as long as it has. Like you said, Jared, 35 freaking years that this movie is still being talked about today, not just by us, but other avid fans, other filmmaking enthusiasts, because like I said, it's not just a fan film. There are people from the film world that love this movie, and I just want to say that movies should always be looked on and appreciated in all the aspects that I mentioned. I'm kind of unraveling here a little bit, but it's like it's a miracle to get a movie made, let alone one that just works on so many different levels. And the casting was all right at the time, it's a miracle. It's an absolute miracle when a movie like this gets made and is still talked about and holds up for such a long time and matters to so many people.
But and also that it's still enjoyable to watch because there's a fair share amount of people who they don't want to see a movie from the 80s 90s just because the effects look cheesy to them.
Yeah.
I showed this to my nephews who are 11 and 15, and they loved it. I was worried they'd be like, "Oh, come on, that looks no."
Right, because
no.
they're used to like the Avengers and stuff.
Yeah, they have top tier of the but 35 years old, even kids can still enjoy this movie, if they're not too scared. But
we weren't. When did you see? Okay,
I don't know.
Do you
I know what question you're asking right now. I don't.
Yeah, when did you first see Aliens?
I have no damn idea.
I can't recall either. Certain movies, like they're very memorable. Like I know exactly the day, the time. Like
I feel like
I have no idea.
I feel like I forgot even when I first saw it, and it suddenly just one day I was like, I'm gonna watch this again, and I just fell into a loop. But I don't know when I first saw this.
I can't recall for myself. I will say, if my memory is serving me correctly, that I actually think I saw Aliens first before I ever actually saw Alien.
Probably. I think I was in the same camp.
I know when I saw Alien, and it was definitely later in life, and I know I saw Aliens before. But anywho, that's neither here nor there. Any final thoughts that you want to say on Aliens, Jared?
Everyone should give this movie a chance.
I mean, if you haven't seen it, which I mean, hey, there's people that haven't seen it.
And to save you some time, while the first film is great,
I love the first movie. Yeah,
I think you can show anyone the second one, and they're going to enjoy the whole experience.
Well, it works as it works as its own movie.
Yes, despite being a sequel, it still works on its own, and I think that helps it too.
Well, there you have it. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode. That's all I have to say about Aliens. Jared, are you actually surprised that you made it this far?
In life or this conversation?
Let's just go with this conversation.
Well, the answer is both.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Surprised.
No, hey. I'm happy to have you here. You're welcome back anytime, anything. I always actually offer people this, even though I'm doing this mostly as a joke to you, but anything you want to plug? You want to plug your Instagram? You want to plug your handles?
No, I have disabled almost all my social media.
Honestly, you're probably living a happier life for it.
I think.
All right. That's all I got, everybody. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.